Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us all here safely, dear God. Father God, as we engage in another election season, God, I pray that you help us to be fair, help us to have integrity, dear God. As we take up, as we go and begin tonight's debate, I ask that you just bless those that will be presenting. I pray that you honor their tongue, God, and I pray that you help them to have a sound mind, clarity of words, and I pray that you help them to obey the authority of the moderator, and I ask that you help us to embrace our Anguilla culture as we continue these debates. I pray that you grant those that are on their way safe travels and that you bless tonight's proceedings. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So let's stand for the national song, please. Thank you. You may be seated.
Good night, everyone. I'm Neil Gums, the president of the Anguilla National Youth Council, and I want to welcome everyone to our first debate. We'll welcome our two candidates, firstly for District Number 2, Cora Richardson Hodge from the Anguilla United Front. Round of applause, please. And from the Anguilla Progressive Movement, Mr. Lennox Vanterpool. Nominees contesting the upcoming 2025 elections will be given a chance to debate several areas of sustainable development. These debates seek to allow candidates to appeal to young voters and express their plans to achieve sustainable development nationally. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Both candidates were just given the questions. It's the first time they've seen it. Now we have Devon Carter, the Dean of the National Youth Ambassador Corps, explain the ground rules.
Sponsors, Government of Anguilla, Flow, and Titanium Audio Visuals. Hello everyone, my name is Devon Carter, the Dean of the National Youth Ambassador Corps. Ground rules. Firstly, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to give an opening statement. Candidates will then be given 4 questions from the moderator related to the sustainable development goals. Candidates will be given 1 minute to prepare a response. Each candidate will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to respond to the question. In this section, the candidate is only to refer to the moderator in his or her response. After candidates have been given an opportunity to respond, a maximum of 2 minutes will be given to each candidate to rebut the stance of their opponent or share further information on the question or topic, if so desired. Only in this rebuttal section are candidates allowed to respectfully refer to their opponents. After the initial 4 questions, questions will be fielded from the virtual and live audience. Questions must be posed to all candidates. Questions with hidden agendas or that may seem confrontational will not be asked. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer each question from the audience with 1 minute rebuttal, if so desired. After the segment is completed, candidates will be given 3 minutes to give a closing statement. If questions are not clear, kindly ask the moderator to repeat questions. And I will be handing it back to Neil.
Okay, these are the rules to the audience. To ensure a debate of quality, we ask the audience to respect all candidates. Right now, can you please place all phones on silent? The audience is not allowed to applaud or make any noise of any kind to interrupt the response of any candidate. Any audience member that insists on doing such will be asked to leave. Please be respectful. All right, we'll give 1 minute and then we'll begin with the opening statement by Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge and then the opening statement by Mr. Lennox Vanderpool. I'll tell you when to go. You can go, Mrs. Hodge.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. And let me first start off by thanking the members of the Anguilla National Youth Council for hosting these series of debates for these upcoming general elections. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Cora Richardson Hodge. I was born in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, to an Anguillian-born father, Mr. Kenneth Richardson, and an Anguillian mother, Doris Connor Richardson. I would have been one of 5 children, and I would have been the only child to have been relocated to Anguilla as a child to live with my grandmother, Ma Jean, who some may know, who lives, her house is right across by the pond. I attended the Island Harbor Preschool and this East End school, now known as the Morris Vanderpool Primary School. I would have returned to Anguilla after law school, and I've been practicing as an attorney since that time. In 2010, I entered the political arena for the first time. And as part of entering the political arena, I would have visited many persons throughout the community to understand what the needs and concerns of the people of District 2 were. As a result of those discussions, it became clear that people wanted more of an investment in them in the community. And that prompted me to spearhead the opening of the AXA Cares Food Bank as well as the Hope Center, which is at the entrance of Sea Feathers in Anguilla. So both the AXA Cares Food Bank and the Hope Center have been in operation since 2011. Hope Center is a community center which caters to students which range anywhere from 14 up to 35 students at any one point in time. And the center deals with homework, after-school programs, and classes for both children and adults. As the Minister of Labor, Immigration, Home Affairs, Constitutional Reform, and Human Rights, and Education between 2015 and 2020, I would have spearheaded some of the most dramatic changes and constitutional reforms here in Anguilla. The Labor Relations Act 2019 was one of those initiatives which is currently in existence today. The 2019 constitutional amendment was also implemented under my leadership. And that constitutional amendment would have allowed a number of things, including the advent of the island-wide seats, which we now have today. We also would have ensured that children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would be recognized as Anguillians and have those rights. The Sustainable Development Goals are principles which I believe in and which the Anguilla United Front as a party believe in. In 2022, I will have been selected as the party leader for the Anguilla United Front, and in the upcoming elections as party leader, I will be ushering the party towards a win in 2025 in just a few weeks. The Sustainable Development Goals that we're speaking about this evening represents the vision that not only the United Nations, but all countries should have for their people in this, am I finished? Time is up? We believe in the SDGs. We support it.
I was just letting you finish your sentence.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hodge. All right. Now the opening statement from Mr. Lennox Vanderpool. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Lennox Vanderpool. I am yes, one. A little closer. Good. Yes, good afternoon to everyone. First of all, let me thank the National Youth Council and the supporting agencies for this debate, putting off the debate, and the opportunity given by the people of District 2 and certainly the Anguilla Progressive Movement for being selected as the candidate for District 2 in the next upcoming general elections. As I said, was going to say before, my name is Lennox Vanderpool, and I am a proud past student of this school, the Morris Vanderpool Primary School. As you might imagine, it is quite a sobering moment for me as past alumnus to sit here in the school named after my dad, who died in service to this community and this school several years ago. I continue to follow in his footsteps as a lifelong teacher of some 38 and a half years, starting my own career here for 10 years. And then I moved to the Valley Secondary School, the Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School, as a teacher in music up until last August. I am proud to be a constituent of the District 2 community, having operated my Marlin School of Music in that area since 1989, and have seen through the development of young people and adults how music transforms lives. Students would have covered music on piano and saxophone and other woodwinds, as well as brass instruments. Also my involvement in the church as the director there and the accompanist for several years. In fact, since 1987. And so my community life goes way back. In terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, we realize that all of these goals have to do with entire community life as holistically as possible. And education, which is my forte in terms of my interest to see the development of all people. We see that that covers quite a bit of those goals, and we seek to continue to make a fit-for-purpose education system all across Anguilla to make our future and the future of our children bright, so that in the words of our national song, we make a country that is proud, strong, and free. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, you will be given 1 minute to respond, to prepare, sorry, and then 3 minutes to respond. So the first question, and this will be directed to Cora Richardson Hodge, and then to Mr. Lennox Vanderpool after. While economic growth is a typical campaign promise, how do you envision this growth leading to visible improvements in the quality of life of Anguillians? I will repeat. While economic growth is a typical campaign promise, how do you envision this growth leading to visible improvements in the quality of life of Anguillians? And these come from SDGs 1, 3, and 8. I will repeat one last time. While economic growth is a typical campaign promise, how do you envision this growth leading to visible improvements in the quality of life of Anguillians? That is time. Mrs. Cora Richardson. I will repeat, Cora Richardson Hodge, I will repeat the question one last time, and then you can answer. While economic growth is a typical campaign promise, how do you envision this growth leading to visible improvements in the quality of life of Anguillians?
Okay. Thank you for that question. The question in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 3, and 8 is a timely question, because for some time, especially on this campaign trail, and in fact over the past 5 years, I have always been a proponent of diversification of the economy. And the reason why I've always been a proponent of diversification of the economy is that it leads to resilience and it leads to economic growth. The diversification that I speak of, when I say diversification, I'm speaking not just about diversification within the tourism sector, but diversification into other sectors. And that includes fishing, it includes farming, it includes renewable energy, and certainly our .ai domain name and IT, internet technology, and all of the spin-offs that come with it. And so The increase in jobs that come from the diversification of the economy, the economic growth leads to stability, it leads to resilience. And one of the reasons why I've always been a strong proponent of that is when I sat as a minister of government between 2015 and 2020, Anguilla was hit with both external and internal shocks. In 2016, we had the banking resolution, which would have stabilized the banking industry. In 2017, we had Hurricane Irma and the damage that would have been caused to the entire island, infrastructure, private homes, businesses, as well as government infrastructure. And in 2020, we had COVID. And in each of those situations, and particularly in 2017 and 2020, we saw that our economy would have suffered, where businesses were closed, where persons were home sitting down unable to work because a number of them were employed in the hotel sector. And so in diversifying the economy, we're able to spread our eggs into various baskets. We're able to ensure that we have sufficient jobs for our people, that we're able to ensure that our people are trained in different areas and not solely in one major industry here in Anguilla, as currently is the case. And as a result of that, economic growth is important for the sustainability of our country. Thank you.
Mr. Lennox Vanderpool, I repeat the question and then you can answer again. While economic growth is a typical campaign promise, how do you envision this growth leading to visible improvements in the quality of life of Anguillians?
Well, thank you very much for the question again. And it is an important question because as I saw it and as I heard it again, I harken back to the year 1986 when we had the advent of comprehensive education, and at the same time, the tourism boom where the government of the day, they went into the direction of high-end tourism. Now, of course, we know that economic growth brings affordability. Pride and self-esteem is an augmentation of resources, financial and otherwise, possibilities. So we have that side of it. In the meantime, we have to be careful to manage it carefully insofar as the human element is concerned. By the human element, we mean how will our children then be schooled or taken care of? We saw in the scenario of 1986, comprehensive education called for every 12-year-old to be now eligible for high school. And with the affordability, with the economic growth, what happened there was parents, some of them anyway, saw that as an opportunity to take on as many jobs as possible in the hotel sector, meanwhile leaving the children to fend for themselves. So yes, economic growth, opportunity. It is also a very human thing to give. And when one finds themselves with extra resources, there's also that opportunity to help others. And those are equally important. Now, we have to make sure that with economic growth, with the opportunities for spending, with the opportunities for earning, that we are equally sensitive to what is happening on the social side of things. Young people, people of school age, they are responsible, they are wanting to be cared for, to be afforded these opportunities whereby they can have not only the physical things, not only the physical resources, but the love, the care, and the attention. We have to make sure that in the place of we don't replace economic growth and economic opportunity with the neglect of our children who will be able to take up these responsibilities as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you both. Now it's time for rebuttals. So we would like to ask Cora Richardson-Hodge, Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge, if you would like to rebut.
Sure, I just want to, thank you for that. I just want to add that with the economic growth that we all have been speaking about and we are all in support of, the quality of life of Anguillians are improved, the quality of life is improved in relation to persons being able to invest in their own families. So once they're able to obtain more income, greater income for their families, you have a diversified economy where you have persons that are able to enter into different fields in the workforce. Once you're able to obtain that additional revenue, that income from being able to work in those areas, then you can invest it in your home, building your home, investing in sending your children off to university, invest it in establishing your own business. And so you will see that with economic growth becomes opportunity for our young people, for our adults, for all persons in Anguilla, and it leads to a greater ability to be able to sustain ourselves and sustain our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lennox Vanderpool?
Yes. Are we on? Yes. Well, I believe that we are along the same trend here in terms of what economic growth calls for and what economic growth provides. I remember hearing a clip from the Honorable Leader some time ago where she was in a similar forum and she raised the point that she would like to diversify totally away from tourism. So I'm happy this evening to hear that that is a little bit of a different tone, because what happens is that Anguilla, given the situation that we are in, we have the natural opportunity, so to speak, of onboarding all possibilities. And there is where our sort of advantage comes when it comes to economic development, economic growth, and so on. But I also want to take the time to re-emphasize that we cannot for a minute discount or discredit or ignore the human element in all of this economic growth. The economic growth is important because, as we see, provisions from overseas are drying up. We don't have a lot of money coming from overseas agencies. The European Development Fund, for example, we would have lost that because of Brexit. The UK is reluctant to give us any aid, and whatever aid we get comes at a cost, not only in dollars and cents, but we even have to sometimes give up our pride. So we have to be self-sufficient, and that comes in a holistic manner, as I said, not only in money, but we have to take care of our social capital. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Our second question, Mr. Vanderpool, you'll be going first, and then Mrs. Richardson-Hodge will be going second. The question reads, the Executive Council minutes of the 23rd of December 2024 revealed that there are plans for a Sandy Hill Beach Resort Club development project. It is essential for District 2 to embrace a tourism product of this nature. Is it essential for District 2 to embrace a tourism project of this nature? SDGs 8, 9, 11, and 12. One more time. The Executive Council minutes of the 23rd of December 2024 reveal that there are plans for a Sandy Hill Beach Resort Club development project. Is it essential for District 2 to embrace a tourism project of this nature? SDG 8, 9, 11, and 12. 1 minute to prepare.
Or could I answer?
Sure, if you're ready, then you can go ahead.
Absolutely. Is it essential? Well, it is absolutely essential. In fact, it is not only essential, but it is long overdue. The District 2 community has felt over the years, this is not only my view, but the view of many of the constituents that I've spoken with, not only as an electoral aspirant, but just moving through and talking. We have felt like a stepchild of sorts when it comes to development, national development, and what can come to the area. Now, this is against the backdrop that Sandy Hill Beach is one of the favorite beaches of tourists and belongers alike. So you could imagine my excitement when I could have announced and heard that the road leading to the Sandy Hill Beach off the main road before the roundabout is now being paved, as an initiative of this APM administration. That, of course, will give rise to further development and projects of this sort. But not only. Talking with the young people of the district and older ones alike, opportunities within such a vibrant district with such a rich heritage and historical past. Those initiatives are welcome because in the district, small though it may be, we have some of the most diverse occupations, some of the brightest people, some of the most creative minds right there in District 2. So not only to feed and to contribute to national life, but I think that to be able to welcome workers and visitors from all over the country and also from all over the world, District 2 is ready and has been ready for a very long time.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, your response?
Yes, thank you for that. As Mr. Vanderpool was speaking, I was seeking to find the Executive Council minute for the property which is being referred to. And the Executive Council minute, as I remember this coming up, is actually not for the development of an entire property, but this property is actually already in existence. So the alien landholding license that was granted was for a unit within the already existing property. The Sandy Hill Beach Resort Club development has been in existence for a number of years here in Anguilla. It has operated as a timeshare. It has operated as a residential home for a number of persons. And the benefit is that being on Sandy Hill Bay, you have persons who are able to own a home on the beach, which you can no longer really do so in other parts of Anguilla. And it allows for traffic to be driven to that area. So there are certain times when they can rent on a nightly basis. They can purchase and live there as their home, etc. But to answer the greater question, yes, a development project would be beneficial here in District 2. And the reason for that is because we have a number of persons who qualified, they are individual business people, whether they are plumbers, electrical persons, etc., electricians who travel outside. You also have a lot of workers here in District 2 who travel outside of District 2 a lot of times to the western part of the area of Anguilla, to the eastern part of Anguilla, to Island Harbor, to work and to earn a living. And so to have a development project in District 2 would be quite beneficial for the people of District 2, but also to revitalize or bring some energy and vitality to the district. It is a small district. It is, in fact, one of the smallest districts in Anguilla. In fact, many people may not realize that the Sandy Hill Bay is a private beach. It is one of Anguilla's only private beaches here because the boundaries for the homeowners go into the sea. And so that limits any formal type of development at Sandy Hill Bay. The other thing that I want to mention is that in terms of revitalizing or being essential for District 2 as a tourism-related product, we all understand, we all know that tourism is our mainstay here in Anguilla. I was disappointed to hear Mr. Vanterpool make reference to a statement that I made, diversify totally away from tourism, because I'm pretty sure that as an intelligent man that he would have understood that I meant, and what I spoke about in my explanation after was diversifying of the economy and not suggesting any shutdown or moving away from tourism at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge. Mr. Vanterpool, you have 2 minutes to either rebut or add any further information. You can start now. 1 second. Audience, while the speakers are speaking, I'll ask you to remain quiet, please, and hold your applause for when they are finished. You can go ahead, Mr. Vanterpool.
Thank you. And yes, I would just like to raise on the issue of the Sandy Hill Beach being a private beach, that this is where we have collaborations and there are possibilities of interactions and discussions, even with private citizens, to be able to broker arrangements and get things done on behalf of the people of Anguilla, the people of the district as a whole. In fact, the paving of the road was an obstacle for several years. And it is only recently, because of discussions and so on, we were able to be able to sell one's vision is important and necessary, especially when it comes to governing. And so therefore, we were able to make those inroads, no pun intended, and get that road done. On the other part, not to belabor the point with the diversification away from tourism, as a teacher, I will have to listen to what is being said, and if it is not clarified, I would have to think that is what the speaker means by what is said. I haven't heard yet, in that regard, backing away from the statement of diversifying totally away from tourism, and that is why I raised it. That is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vanterpool. Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add any further information if you wish.
Yeah, sure, certainly. Thanks for that. First thing, and I did not remember I had the opportunity, just in case Mr. Vanterpool is not aware, the Sandy Hill Road was transferred from under private ownership to government ownership while the Anguilla United Front was in administration. In fact, I played a pivotal role in ensuring that land going down to the Sandy Hill Bay was transferred to the government of Anguilla. That was the first step that had to be done in order for the government to even think about paving a road, because government would not have been in a position to pave a private road. And so I thank him for the recognition of the efforts that have been made, because without acquiring the land, acquiring the road by the government of Anguilla under the AUF administration, the road would not have been able to be paved today. The second thing I'd like to touch on is the diversification, and I hate to belabor the point, but perhaps it is that Mr. Vanterpool was not present, or maybe was not even aware of the entire proceedings that took place when the statement was made during the youth session. And if I would encourage him to go back and to listen to the tape, because on the heels of me saying diversify totally away from tourism, I would have given an explanation as to the reason why we needed to diversify into other economies. And so we can go tit for tat and we can play, back and forth all night, but at the end of the day, the people of Anguilla totally and certainly understand that diversifying means moving into other directions, not just shutting down what you have and going into other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Question number 3. District 2 features several key biodiversity areas. What are the major environmental concerns facing District 2? What do you see as a crucial environmental areas in need of development in District 2? We'll give you about 1 minute to prepare. And Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge will be going first. That is time. Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge, I repeat it one last time. District 2 features several key biodiversity areas. What are the major environmental concerns facing District 2? What do you see as crucial environmental areas in need of development in District 2?
Thank you very much for the question. District 2 has a number of ponds in its constituency. And one of the ponds, for instance, the Long Pond, which is actually right in front of my house, poses an interesting dichotomy. And when I say that, I mean that there are times when there's a lot of rain where the pond and the sea meet. And it's in stark contrast what nature does compared to what people do. And the reason why I say that is that across the pond, and you have to pass the sea on one side and the pond on the other to get to some beautiful villas in the area that we call High Cliff. Now, certainly we would want to ensure that we protect our environmental areas while we develop and while we encourage development such as the building of villas and hotels, etc., in the constituency. But the pond itself and the 3 ponds in Anguilla, in District Number 2, are important because they are ponds which cater to the various wildlife, to birds, to different aspects of biodiversity, and we want to continue to encourage them. And so, as a result of that, it is important that we continue to protect our ponds, we continue to protect our the various species that utilize the pond, And the environmental concerns that District 2 face, while it's a small constituency, there are a number of aspects that we can look at in terms of addressing the environmental issues that exist in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard Vanderpool?
Repeating the question, or are you just going to?
Sure, I'll repeat the question. District 2 features several key biodiversity areas. What are the major environmental concerns facing District 2? What do you see as crucial environmental areas in need of development in District 2? The SDGs 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Yes, I would answer this question based on my concern, especially for the issue of sand mining. I have been, privy because of our early morning walks and other treks to several areas and serious as well, and these have been brought to the attention of relevant authorities, not only by myself, but a number of concerned citizens on Sandy Hill Beach, that is, we spoke about earlier, and Dropsy Bay, also at Mime Bay. And this, as we all know, cannot be good for the greater eco-development and response in what we have. So sand mining, we must be able to get a handle on this, and here again is where education comes in, because we have to know what we have, we have to appreciate what we have, and we must seek to preserve and maintain what we have for generations to come. The other thing I would like to touch on here is to mention about these SDGs. As we know, they are goals that suppose are intended to be met by 2030. Yet, if one were to do a cursory research, we'll know that many countries, if not all, are really very much behind in terms of achieving these. It puts me in mind of another conference, the COP conference, where there too, because when we think of biodiversity, we think of natural disasters, we think of all of these things, and hurricanes and tsunamis and the like, where small island states like ours have little of a footprint in these areas, yet we suffer the most. Who remembers Hurricane Irma, for example? And through no fault, no bad action of our own, we still had to undergo in several different areas, not only in economic development, but we talk about learning loss because our buildings were damaged. We couldn't go to school and all of these things. So we have work to do as a community, and I didn't mention litter management as part of that. As a people, we have to become very much more responsible in terms of what we do in all of these areas. Thank you very much.
Just as an aside, we will take one question from the audience. You can just, if you have a question, you can give a question to Amani. Amani, wave your hand. He's right at the back. We will only take one from the audience, okay? Thank you.
Now we'll have a rebuttal by Mrs. Corey Jackson-Hodge, additional information.
Yes, thank you for that. One of two items I want to bring to the fore would be the discussion that we had earlier in terms of the boundaries for Sandy Hill Bay being in the sea. And what that highlights is the fact that erosion is a very real factor, not just in District Number 2, but across all of Anguilla. And the challenge remains, how do we minimize the erosion of our bays and beaches? We've seen it in Island Harbor. We've seen it down at Crocus Bay. And so the question and the challenge that we have is, how do we prevent erosion? How do we ensure that what livable land that we have continues to remain? Also, one of the challenges for Long Pond Bay, and I don't know if any people actually go to the beach, Long Pond Bay, but in actual fact, it is one of those beaches that have a peculiar feature where all of refuse comes into the Long Pond Bay. And so you find that you can clean up the bay, and very shortly you have a lot of garbage and other items that come from off of the sea that washes on shore. And so because of that, it makes the Long Pond Bay a bay that you really cannot utilize for all intents and purposes. You can also see that where there are attempts to clean up seaweed, etc., in different parts of District 2 and the island as a whole, that Long Pond Bay, for all intents and purposes, the seaweed is allowed to gather simply because of the amount that's coming in and its specific, the special location in which it occupies. And so those are considerations and certainly environmental areas that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Mr. Lennox Vanderpool, rebuttal or additional information.
Yes, and I would just like to say that I appreciate the point by Madam Leader about the erosion. It's a very real concern. And that is why a community group that I'm a part of, the Sandy Hill Community Project, really, which we just say Sandy Hill for purposes, but it really expands to all of District 2, have embarked on a tree planting exercise, because with tree planting, we on the beach and in other areas where it gets marshy or sand will move around, to really hold things together and to minimize the erosion, because yes, it is a very real concern. Additionally, the aggressive program by this Anguilla Progressive Movement of the eradication of all dirt roads is also important in that way, because even the Sandy Hill Road, to which we referred earlier, we had a situation there where every time it rains and we put a new surface of marl or dirt, and it rains again, the dirt will wash right down into the sea. And of course, that was unsustainable. Now having a proper concrete road, or whatever the finish will be, then we know that we will have made better and alleviated the challenge as far as having the dirt mixed with the sand and everything wash into the sea. So there is possibilities and to a responsiveness of government partnering with communities in having these things remedied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Our final question: what strategies can be implemented to support local businesses and job creation within District Number 2, SDGs 8, 9, and 11? What strategies can be implemented to support local businesses and job creation within District 2, SDGs 8, 9, and 11? You have 1 minute. Then Mr. Vanderpool, you will be going first.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Well, let's answer. I think the most important thing on this question is to start with addressing the question through dialogue. Oftentimes, we believe that we know what is the right thing for, as government officials or just as leaders in communities, we believe that we know what is the right thing for larger groups of people, and that is not necessarily the case. To this question, I have been speaking widely over the years about what could be some possibilities in local businesses. Young people are looking for opportunities. They are creative, they are entrepreneurial, they want to see things happen. When you talk to some of our constituents, especially the younger ones, given the social lay of the land, they'll say, well, teacher, I don't see you. I say, but I don't see you either, and I'm here or there. They say, but I'm just from walk home, you know. And it is not that they are going from walk home because that is what they want to do. They want to talk about places of meeting. We talk about bakeries, for example, barber shops, you know, hair salons where people congregate, creative green spaces. That is an aggressive feature of this APM administration. And all the other, and that is why the APM has invested heavily in low-interest loans from the Anguilla Development Board and other business startups. The initiative in the Farmer Wise building where the Innovate Anguilla and so on. So this is a response to what is happening not only locally in our district too, but in the wider island and in other districts as well. But we have, I have to say, we have a lot of creative thought from areas to do with nutrition to hands-on things. The ideas are there. And the strategies to be implemented is to provide, make sure that resources are made available to provide already existing businesses. And the job creation, through conversation, we are going to find out that lots of possibilities exist, from the tech, from the digital to hands-on. And there is where we are. That is why in one of my speeches at one of the public meetings, I said that the time for District 2 is now, because we are seeing that a lot of these ideas are coming to the fore with accompanying strategies that we can make good on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hart, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you for that. One of the things that we need to look at is we need to look at increasing opportunities for our young people to engage in entrepreneurship. And that is done through small loans, grants. We know that youth and culture assists young persons in starting businesses on a small scale. And the vision has to be to increase that so that all across Anguilla, young persons that have a vision are able to capitalize and take advantage of such a program. Training for our young people in various areas. And we are very fortunate in District 2 that we now have the Anguilla Community College, which is almost practically in District 2, right at our doorsteps. And so we would want to encourage as many young persons as possible to take advantage of the opportunity. The Anguilla Community College is here for us, for the people of Anguilla, and we need to be able to utilize it to the best of our ability. The Anguilla Community College provides certificates, the short courses, programs aimed at assisting our people all across Anguilla, whether it is that you want to start your own business, you want to expand something that you're currently doing, you want to learn a new skill, the ACC is there and can provide that assistance. And of course, the tuition at the ACC is relatively affordable for persons who can afford it. And there are also funding opportunities for those persons that may not be able to reach or to pay for the full extent of the tuition. We need to support our local businesses. And in District 2, we're very fortunate that we have a number of self-made businesses, local businesses that have housing, they have their own building structures, but we also have many persons that are skilled in a trade that travel from their homes to various parts of Anguilla to conduct a trade, whether it's in plumbing, electrical, contractors. We have a highly skilled constituency, and so we want to continue to encourage our persons to engage in those trades. For those businesses that import, we have always, the Anguilla United Front has always been in support of decreasing or removing import duties, or the GST, from the imports on businesses. And that is because when the GST was implemented, it would have required that persons would have paid up out of their cash flow to pay for those items coming into the country. And as a result of that, their cash flow has been severely curtailed. We do not believe in treating businesses as if they're our enemies, but to work along with them so that once the GST is removed or decreased from imports, it allows the businesses to bring in more, to be able to widen the range of items that they have. And we need to continue to do that to encourage our local businesses already in existence. I'm happy. Do I have the ability to? Oh, sorry. I'm happy to hear that the APM administration has supported the ADB, because I am aware that initially when they first took office, they sought to shut down the Anguilla Development Board. And I'm happy to see that they've now recognized the importance of the ADB and is now encouraging persons to take advantage of the funding opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cora Richardson-Hodge. Mr. Van der Poel, you have 2 minutes to respond or add any further information.
Yes. I will just like to mention in terms of, and I appreciate the comment on the Anguilla Community College, more especially because that is an entity that, and the operators there, the employers, who, many of whom are former teachers at the Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School. And in reference to training, they have, many of them would have continually complained that the quality of student that would come to the ACC is under par and not ready for the training that the ACC provides. And that moves right back down. In fact, not only the ADB was mentioned that may have to close, but also the Anguilla Community College. And not because anybody wanted to close the Anguilla Development Board or wanted to close the Anguilla Community College necessarily. These are good entities for any community. But given the history and the financial position left by previous administrations that had to be considered by the Anguilla Progressive Movement in 2020 and beyond, a lot of hard questions had to be asked. And in terms of the opportunities that went a-begging prior to 2020, we had situations, the administration of the time, where hard questions had to be looked at. Well, thankfully, the Anguilla Development Board is still there, and the Anguilla Community College is still there, because we know that our children are the future, but things have to be done sustainably in order to benefit not only us in the now, but generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van der Poel. Our final question. Oh, sorry. Chloe, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Yes,
add any further information. I apologize.
Yes, that's okay. Thank you. I'm happy that the Anguilla Community College and the Anguilla Development Board are in existence and still standing strong today, and that this administration has decided to put their support behind it. And it is clear to me that the fact that the initial conversations were taking place about potentially shutting down these seriously important institutions, and the fact that they exist today means that the government was able to find a way to ensure that they continued to not only exist but also to thrive even in difficult circumstances. The reality is that the Anguilla Development Board and the Anguilla Community College are intricate to the development of our people. It is a matter where they put people first. The Anguilla Development Board assists persons with small loans, with being able to send their children off to school. And so while persons may not be able to obtain financing at a larger financial institution, they can do so at the Anguilla Development Board on terms that are more reasonable and possible for them. The Anguilla Community College is an important and intricate part of Anguilla society today, and if we're serious about educating our children, about improving the educational standard of our population, then the ADB and the ACC are two institutions that you should never, ever talk about shutting down in any way whatsoever. And that is why under the previous administration, despite the difficulties, the financial difficulties that were being experienced, Hurricane Irma, COVID, etc., that there was an intent to ensure that those institutions remained operating for the benefit of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge. Now a question from your people in District 2. This will be our final question for the night for District 2 representatives. In terms of sargassum, what measures will be taken to try to mitigate the amount of sargassum that is present on the beach in Sandy Hill Bay? One more time. In terms of sargassum, what measures will be taken to try to mitigate the amount of sargassum that is present on the beach, especially in Sandy Hill Bay? Mrs. Richardson Hodge, I'll give you a minute if you wish to prepare, then you have 2 minutes to respond.
I'll take the minute. Thank you.
That's time. I'll repeat the question one more time. What measures will be taken to mitigate the amount of sargassum present at the beach, especially at Sandy Hill Bay, where the property or project is slated to be developed? That was a specific question. So, what measures will be taken to mitigate the amount of sargassum present on the beach, especially at Sandy Hill Bay, where the property or project is slated to be developed?
Which property? The same one that's already in existence?
I assume
That
so.
one? Okay. Thank you for that. In actual fact, sargassum, the issue with sargassum has actually started while I sat as Minister of Environment for about 2 years. And it was really a difficult situation to address. And many persons may go on Facebook and see me knee-deep in seaweed on the bay with a number of our community members trying to clean up. And so we looked at dealing with it in various ways. We first tried by hand, but as you were cleaning, the seaweed was coming in. And so by the end of the day, you could have spent 8-10 hours working on that, and by the end of the day, it was almost as if you hadn't done anything because it looked exactly the same. Then we looked at bringing in heavy machinery, trucks, etc., to dump the seaweed into the trucks and cart them off property. The difficulty with that is that the trucks would have, I wouldn't say done damage, but it impacted the sand, etc. And so it was determined that we should not have trucks on the beach. Then we looked at burying the seaweed in sand, so that as you take it off of the shore and you bury it to the back, and that seaweed, when it dries, would rejuvenate the soil, etc. I say all of that to say that there are a number of options, a number of alternatives that were tried. There are a couple of things that we haven't tried. One would be to purchase one of those machines that actually collect the seaweed from off the sand. Some of the hotels have that. That investment is quite costly. I think it's anywhere between $150,000 to $300,000 for the machine, if I'm correct. And then you would have there's also placing a net out in the sea to be able to stop the seaweed coming in. The difficulty with that is you capture the fish as well, and so and other wildlife in the waters. And so it is a vexing situation. And at the end of the day, there has been certainly while I was Minister of Education, Minister of Environment, there were a number of avenues that we have tried. And I think at this point, most persons have looked at, and I think the government of Anguilla has looked at simply burying it and building up the sand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more time, repeat the question, Mr. Vanderpool. What measures will be taken to mitigate the amount of sargassum present on the beach, especially at the Sandy Hill Bay, where the property or project is slated to be developed? Over to you.
Yes, thank you. As Madam Leader would have indicated, and I would have been familiar, a number of measures, not only on the Sandy Hill beach, but on a number of beaches heavily affected by the sargassum, would have been tried. I grew up in a time when we had none of that seaweed coming in. Also, I grew up in a time where you could get the most beautiful seashells on the bay and the sea feathers, the sea fans. I grew up in a time when you could just go a few feet into Sandy Hill beach in the water and see the most beautiful wildlife, you know, the small little fish moving around. And I grew up in a time when we used to help George Apage pull up his boat, you know, and the scent of the fish was stifling. That was the richness of the sea. But over time, things change. And now we have the challenge of this, what we call seaweed, the sargassum. So what do? We try taking it away. We try burying it. But I take hope in when we see it down at Long Pond, in the Long Pond area. One day you could go there and you could hardly wade in the water. We take a few buckets away to do the agriculture, the home garden, and so on. But it is so stifling, it is so thick. And then over a short period of time, you didn't know that it was there. Nature took its course. And until we have some super remedy, I would suggest to allow nature to take its course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Mrs. Judson Hodge, you have 1 minute to add further information or to rebut.
I'll be honest, I think that between myself and Mr. Vanderpool, we've effectively covered that topic.
Wonderful. Mr. Vanderpool, would you like your minute?
There's nothing to rebut to.
Is rebut or add further information if you wish?
Yes. That's fine, I'm good.
Okay, wonderful. A round of applause for our two candidates tonight. We'll have a 10-minute break for you guys to support the Morris Vanderpool Primary School. They have Johnny Cakes and chicken on sale. This will show that you have actually passionate about sustainable development of the young people. So go and support them. You have 10 minutes. Then you have district number 1.
Closing.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Closing remarks by Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge and then Mr. Vanderpool. I'm sorry, I'm rushing the process.
Yeah, thank you. I was getting concerned. I thought you were doing the break and then the closing. So I'd like to thank the Anguilla National Youth Council and the moderators and the audience, both present and on social media, for joining this evening. These are critical times for our country, and the leadership we elect will have a major impact in the direction of our country. I believe in the strength, resilience, and potential of our people. I believe that Anguilla deserves better than what we have seen under the current leadership. Anguilla deserves leaders who are accountable, leaders who prioritize our people, and leaders who understand that real progress comes from putting the needs of the people first. Anguilla, I showed up for you tonight because debates matter. They allow voters to hear real ideas, evaluate leadership, and make informed choices about the future of our country. That is why the Anguilla United Front did not just agree to these district debates. We called for something greater, a national leadership debate. Because while district representation is important, the direction of this country is shaped at the highest level of leadership. Unfortunately, the Premier of Anguilla, the leader of government business, has refused to participate in such a debate. He has in fact indicated that he is unavailable to attend a leadership debate. And in light of this, my colleagues in the Anguilla United Front have made a clear and collective decision. A debate process that does not include the leader, the national leader of government, does not give the people a full and fair discussion about the future of Anguilla. Therefore, after tonight, the AUF will suspend further participation in these district debates until the Premier agrees to stand before the people and defend his record. But let me be clear, this is not about avoiding discussion. We are ready, we are prepared. We will continue to engage directly with the people of Anguilla. Over the next few days, the Anguilla United Front will take our message to the people in open forums, town halls, and live discussions. We will show up, we will answer questions, we will make our case for a better Anguilla. Because, unlike some, we do not hide from the people. We stand ready to serve them. We will provide further details in short order. Until then, I thank you for your time, your engagement, and your unwavering commitment to a stronger Anguilla. Thank you.
Mr. Lennox Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, moderators. Thank you again to the National Youth Council and your supporting agencies. Thank you to the audience for coming out and supporting and hearing the vision, the aspiration of political candidates. And again, I say what a joy and an honor it is for me to sit here in the company of my representative, Madam Leader, to discuss the issues of District 2 and the issues of Anguilla. To me, if we cannot discuss the issues of the district, it will be a bit of a stretch to want to discuss the issues nationally, because these are the people that would send us to the national forum. Having said that, I myself didn't even have to be here. And the reason why I say that is that I had no political ambitions, and anybody who knows me know that this is probably not where they expected to see Teacher Lennox. However, I have a particular interest in the youth, not only of District 2, but of Sandy Hill, of Anguilla as a whole. And if we are going to discuss sustainable development goals, what better opportunity it is for us to discuss how we are going to make things better, not only in the present, but for the future of our children and our Anguilla. With previous administrations, we have moved a number of mountains to try to get information through studies, through reports, and through other means. Madam Leader herself once sat as Minister of Education, and other ministers of education over the years, because since taking my position in 1986 as an uncertificated teacher right here, I was always uncomfortable with how we were teaching our children. It was as if we are only teaching subjects and more subjects and more subjects, and not really getting to the humane side of what children are capable of. And we have seen that our neglect in this area, this single area, would have caused a number of unsavory effects. Lack of conflict resolution, lack of proper dealings with anger management, and so on. So this is the reason why I'm here. And I count it an honor again for the people of District 2 to have the confidence in me that wherever a forum opens, whether the Premier is there or not, we want to offer and raise our voice on behalf of the people and the children of Anguilla. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge and Mr. Lennox Van der Poel, for a very insightful discussion. We will take a short break, then we'll have district number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Test. Good night again, everyone. Could you guys please take a seat? We're ready to resume. There's many seats in the front, so could you guys take a seat, please? Okay, guys, could the audience please settle down? We're ready to resume. Thank you very much. Nominees contesting the upcoming 2025 elections will be given a chance to debate several areas of sustainable development. These debates seek to allow candidates to appeal to young voters and express their plans to achieve sustainable development nationally. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and planet now and into the future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. We'll once again go over the ground rules.
Sponsors, Government of Anguilla, Flow, and Titanium Audio Visuals. Ground rules. Firstly, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to give an opening statement. Candidates will be given 4 questions from the moderator related to sustainable development goals. Candidates will be given 1 minute to prepare a response. Each candidate will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to respond to the question. In this section, the candidate is only to refer to the moderator in his or her response. After candidates have been given an opportunity to respond, a maximum of 2 minutes will be given to each candidate to rebut the stance for their opponent or share further information on the question or topic, if so desired. Only in this rebuttal section are candidates allowed to respectfully refer to their opponents. After the initial 4 questions, questions will be fielded from the virtual and live audience. Questions must be posed to all candidates. Questions with hidden agendas or that may seem confrontational will not be asked. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer questions from the audience with a minute rebuttal, if so desired. After this segment is completed, candidates will be given 3 minutes to give a closing statement. If questions are not clear, kindly ask the moderator to repeat the question.
Rules to the audience. To ensure a debate of quality, we ask the audience to respect all candidates. Please place all phones on silent. The audience is not allowed to applaud or make any noise of any kind to interrupt the response of any candidate. Any audience member that insists on doing such will be asked to leave. Please be respectful. We will begin with an opening statement by Mrs. Palmer Van Webster.
It's working. Now I can tell. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, Anguilla. I see we're represented here very well. Good evening, District 1. Good evening to my fellow debater. and to our audience this evening and those listening and watching via social media. I am honored this evening to once again stand as a candidate for District 1. And yes, you know it is the community I love, the community I have fought for, and the community I will continue to fight for. I come to you, the people of District 1, not as a stranger, not as a politician seeking power, but as your sister, your advocate, your champion, a woman who has stood with you, fought with you, for you, and served the community and the people in the House of Assembly, may I say with distinction. And as your former representative in District 1, I stood up for you in the House of Assembly. I fought against corruption. I stood against heavy taxation. I championed better governance and ensured that the voices, all the voices of District 1 were heard, and they were heard loud and clear. I tabled legislation that mattered. Imagine that. As leader of the opposition, I tabled legislation. I held government accountable through the Public Accounts Committee and worked tirelessly to bring real solutions to our people. Thank you.
Dr. Webster, your opening remarks.
Good evening. Good evening, and I thank the National Youth Council for setting up these debates. I want to thank Mrs. Webster for being here, and I want to thank you, the audience. I am Ellis Lorenzo Webster, born and raised in Island Harbor, son of a fisherman and a homemaker. I'm a child of the Anguilla Revolution. I am one of you. And I am who I am because of Anguilla and because of District 1. With your help, I went off to school, I came back and worked, left again to advance my education, and then came back to give back. I've provided medical care to many of you, and you have accepted me as one of your own. District 1, the greatest joy of my life, you provided by electing me to serve as your representative from the 30th of June 2020 until now. It has not always been easy, but it has been rewarding. I have learned so much from this job, and I have learned from you. What is the role of government? Government is here to do for the people what they cannot do for themselves. Government must work to make it possible for all to live and be safe. In 2015, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, including to end poverty and zero hunger by 2030, were instituted. But COVID-19 changed all of this and slowed down the process. This setback required a surge in action and investment to enhance economic opportunities, infrastructure, improve education, extend social protection, deliver on the commitment to end poverty and leave no one behind. And that is why this administration has done so much for the people of Anguilla, including you from District 1. We invested in sustainable agriculture practices, food security. We had economic stimulus with removal of taxes such as property tax, removal of GST and custom duties on food, controlling the cost of fuel, electricity credits of $3,500 per household, food vouchers for the elderly equaling $1,500. Education helps to reduce inequalities, and we have provided access to quality higher education and will provide access to technical and vocational training. Airport development, marina development, Lansing Bowl Cultural Center basketball, and other sports facilities, the Valley Main Road. But what is bothering is gun crime and violence, which has plagued our district and this country. We must condemn this violence even as we reach out to those who commit these crimes and help those who are victims of these acts. So I'll end where I started. It is an honor to represent District 1 and Anguilla, and I welcome the opportunity to continue to serve you and this country of ours. Thank you.
Good night once again. So we go into the questions. And this, Mrs. Pamela Webster, you'll be answering.
Call me Pam Webster. I think everybody knows it's a difficult name, so
Yeah.
Pam is good.
Okay, Mrs. Pam Webster,
Yes.
we'll ask you the first question, and then
Yes.
the Premier. Dr. Ellis. What are the practical strategies that you would implement if elected to encourage sustainable financial growth? These come from SDGs 1, 4, 8, and 11. I repeat the question. What are some practical strategies that you would implement if elected to encourage sustainable financial growth?
The cost of living in Anguilla is a real challenge to financial growth. We first have to address the cost of living because it's very hard for Anguillians to make life affordable as it is. And financial growth means having extra. It means having, not just going from one check to paying all the bills, accumulating debt, and all of that. It's financial growth. And in District 1, it is really evident, more evident perhaps than in other places where there is more development within the district. In District 1, often our people in hospitality have to go to West End and to work. And the gas that is needed to go there, even if they carpool, it's just not affordable. What do we need for financial growth? We need to look at the heavy taxation that we've got, and we've got to challenge that. And we have to look at it one individual at a time. GST has only made District 1's position less. I will fight to reduce taxes on essential goods. I will increase support for struggling families. And I believe we should invest in affordable housing solutions so that every Anguillian can live with dignity. We need to encourage entrepreneurship in District 1. We need to do things that would allow for people to use their strengths, their traditional practices, to allow us to really stimulate growth in District 1 area, and ultimately in the pocket of the citizen, the constituent in District 1. For instance, part of the planning we had for the development plan for District 1, which was going to lead development in Anguilla, had issues like call centers, small cottage industries, all of those things, small mechanical areas, mechanical shops. These would allow auto repairs, young people to go out. These are the things that would make a difference and allow for financial growth. So we need to create jobs to stimulate economic growth and financial growth. Thank you.
Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster, your response. I repeat the question one last time. What are some practical strategies that you would implement if elected to encourage sustainable financial growth?
Thank you very much for the question. Anguilla is built for tourism, high value, low volume. And that is one of the models that we use, and I think that District 1 is specifically poised based on location. District 1 has beaches. District 1 is mostly coastal. And what we have to make sure is that we develop what we have. In terms of hotel development, we do know there is the Savannah Bay Development Project with hotels, a marina village, and luxury villas. I think that these are ways that we can provide jobs, and I think that's important, job creation. But we also want to develop businesses. Fishing and farming are very important to us in District 1. And we have 200 miles of water to the north of us. We have the best fishing village in Anguilla, and we should be able to develop that with bigger boats going further and being able to make that business work. Farming, we have arable land, but now we know that with greenhouses and shade houses, we can get 6 to 8 times the yield that you'd get from the land itself. And we find a way that we can provide water, then we can grow more. And that is important because we know that District 1 would grow its own corn and peas and grow sustainably. We have to give incentives to young people. That's the only way that we can develop the people as they grow up, as they leave school. And that can be done through government providing subsidies, providing incentives, providing low-interest loans, like the 3% loans from the Anguilla Development Board, grants, and the Get Set program, where monies 10 to 20,000 US dollars are given to young people under 35 to develop businesses. The Innovate Anguilla program that is there now just to the east of the hospital, where persons can go develop their business, learn how to do their business, have the operational costs subsidized, and then move on from there. And the thing about District 1, District 1 was known for its mom and pop stores. And those have gone by the wayside. We feel that there are lots of these small industries, the entrepreneurship that can be brought back. Sometimes we need to make sure that we help our young people to find the ways to get them started and then move on from there. And I think this is the way that we start, to get District 1 to get sustainable financial growth. And once we have that, I think that persons now will have the money coming in that they then can reinvest and develop our district. That is what will help District 1 and help Anguilla in general to move forward.
Mrs. Webster, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add additional information.
Yes, and I hope that you will let me see the indicator for the card as we go, the timing. Yes, and to rebut, it's 5 years after. We've just had 5 years of this administration being there, and we're still having the old story of District 1 development. It's very frustrating to me because the question said we're looking at practical strategies that would need to be implemented, not dreamed of, not talked about, if elected, to encourage sustainable financial growth. And we have nothing different in the last 25 years, I dare say. In fact, some small businesses that were there in District 1 are no longer there because the cost to sustain those businesses or even to move forward, have not been there. So fishing and farming, yes, many of the fishermen I talk to, they can't even raise the money that you need diesel to go out. You've got to buy pots, and not every day is the same thing. What are they bringing back? Practical strategies mean you don't think about it and just talk about it. You have to actually implement. That means you've got to have a plan, and you've got to bring the resources to the persons who need it. And that is what is absent from District 1. So 5 years later, let us not have the same possibilities of before. Actually, in District 1, there is great potential. That fish processing plant that was put forward by one of, I believe, a candidate who's running this election that could actually have transformed right away with collaboration with St. Martin to start exporting our fish. We could do ceviche, we could do smoked things, we could get them into the supermarket like we get with our lettuce and things like that in other districts. No, the conversation has to be a new conversation, and we've got to go back to our people in District 1, and you're here, and I'm so grateful for that, because the talk doesn't do it. Thank you.
Dr. Ellis Webster, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add additional information.
Thank you very much. You know, it's very obvious that Mrs. Webster has forgotten that she had 5 years in the House. And she started out by saying that she tabled legislation, but Mrs. Webster did not bring one motion to the House of Assembly during the 5 years that she was there, not one. And so to stay up here and pontificate is not going to fool or confuse the people of District 1. She talked about taxes, reducing taxes. Certainly, we have been doing that. But it was necessary to have a tax that brings in revenue so that the services that government has to provide were provided. And now that we have stabilized the finances of this country that were left in shambles in an administration that she was in the government at that time, and where the former premier said that she never objected to anything that they brought to the House when she met with him in his office on the Friday afternoons. And so I am saying that this administration has the wherewithal to make things work for District 1. Certainly, we had on a national level had to stabilize the country, had to bring Anguilla out of bankruptcy, and since then, we are making the necessary steps. We have given incentives, we have given subsidies, which have affected everyone to help them to retain money in their pockets. And by doing so, we are able to have financial stability, and now financial growth will follow. We have made sure that Anguilla Development Bank has money to on-lend and low-interest loans, that the National Commercial Bank of Anguilla, which is 100% owned by the government of Anguilla, will see it fit to provide loans to persons, to provide incentivized loans so that our young people especially can set up businesses so that we can move forward. District 1 is ripe now for the growth that will happen in the next 5 years.
Thank you very much, Dr. Webster. I would like to remind the audience there should be absolutely no talking or clapping while the speakers are giving their response, okay? Even if it's your supporter or your representative that you're supporting, there should be absolutely no clapping or speaking while the person is responding. Thank you. Question number 2. District 1 historically has produced internationally renowned athletes. With sports being a critical component for youth development, what plans will you propose for the development and maintenance of sporting facilities in District 1? That comes from SDG 9, 11, and 16. One more time. District 1 historically has produced internationally renowned athletes. With sports being a critical component for youth development, what plans will you propose for the development and maintenance of sporting facilities in District 1? SDGs 9, 11, and 16. We will start with Dr. Webster. If you want, you have
I'm
1
ready.
minute. Okay, sure.
Thank you very much. And I like the way the question is worded, because District 1 has had and still has some of the best athletes in Anguilla. But given the surfaces that our athletes have had to run on or play cricket on or play football on, some of them have gotten injured before they were able to reach international status. But you have someone like Lanville Harrigan, who's represented District 1 well in cricket, represented Anguilla, represented the Leeward Islands, and would have represented the West Indies and the A team if he hadn't gotten injured. You have athletes like Susan Webster and Laura Richardson Ruan, who stood out for Anguilla, that we have named the awards at graduation after them because they are such great athletes. You know, Clarence Rogers, better known as Blackie. I mean, these are athletes that come from District 1 that gave themselves, sacrificed themselves to represent the district, the country, the region. What we have to provide the sporting facilities. And that is something that when I was asked to meet with Lord Ahmad of Wimbledon in May of 2018 after Hurricane Irma, I said to him that if our athletes are going to weigh GB or the Union Jack on their chest, that they should provide us with facilities that we can train our athletes properly, that they can perform on properly, so that they can be the best that they can be. And we still are not at that point until Lord Zach Goldsmith held for us a fundraiser to replace the Players' Pavilion at the Ronald Webster Park, which is named in honor of Lanville Harrigan. £150,000, which we are getting that set up. We have to be able to provide those facilities. And so in Island Harbor right now, we're working on putting a steel building over the basketball court. And we will make sure that that court is resurfaced so that it has parquet floors so that our athletes do not get injured on the concrete. We will make sure that the Welch's Field is built up so that we can play cricket and softball, baseball, and football on that field. The Pond Ground Field, in partnership with FIFA, we will make sure that that has cricket and football, which is planned for that field. But these are the facilities that we are working on right now. And we can't only develop them, we have to maintain them. Because when the lights don't work, the people can't play. And that is something that we have to insist upon. Now that we have shored up our finances in terms of the government of Anguilla, we now also have investors who are helping to make sure, because the investment in the steel frame for the basketball field on the pond, that is being paid for by someone who visited Anguilla and saw what we had and decided that they should help to make it better for our young people. That is what it takes.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Webster, your response?
I want to start by saying to the Honorable Premier, the representative for District 1, that long before he came here, we had through the care center and the community, a collaboration which gave us a basketball court. And let me tell you, and it was started, I want to recognize Kenneth Harrigan in this audience, a former representative, because we collaborated even before I was in office as the opposition leader. We collaborated and we got that. You know what we got following that? We got Kiki. Remember? We have a national, women's, an NBA player. Can you imagine coming from Island Harbor? Because she had that facility available to her on a pond, a little place that nobody looked at. Cricket. If you say that we value our athletes, why is it that we're not out there looking for our young people? Spondell, did you hear? He is the fastest. He is great. He's from the Keys, where a lot of your support is. But he doesn't have, as several of the other athletes in Island Harbor don't have, the basic, not even uniform, the basic things they need to compete and have some sort of dignity competing. And we can talk all of this. This is upsetting, as I said, but it's important to look beyond the Lord Ahmads and the Lord Zach and Goldsmith. I know them as well, and I've met with them as well, and it's wonderful that we can use our office to get that. But until we roll up our sleeves and do something in our community to make sure that our young athletes, so full of promise, have opportunity, not 5 years later, But now we are back to square one. It's only talk. It's only empty promises. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Webster. Dr. Webster, you have 2 minutes to add or rebut.
Certainly, thank you very much. You know, it requires collaborations. You know, SDG 17 talks about partnerships. And the only way that we can get to where we need to be in a country that has limited resources and limited population and limited ability to get those resources, we have to form partnerships. And that is what we were working on. As the Anguilla Progressive Movement, we feel it is necessary that we leverage what we have so that we can get the benefits that we need, so that we can get fitness trainers, so we can get facilities. We have to go that route, because by the time we train up our own persons to be in those fields, we would have missed the mark. That is how we start, while we're working on our coaches, while we're working on our own trainers and managers. But that's what it takes to get things going. And District 1 is ripe right now for these things to happen. Certainly, I appreciate the work of Michaela Kiki Herbert-Harrigan, and she is an ambassador for Anguilla. And as I mentioned earlier, there are others who have come, and we have persons still who are growing up in our community who need that push. And it is the goal of our Minister of Education and Sports, Ms. Deanne Kentish-Rogers. She has committed, twice what was in the sports budget. She has come up with a national sports plan. These are all plans that would spill over. Although it's a national, it will spill over to District 1 and provide the ability for us to develop our athletes as they come up and make the community proud, make Anguilla proud, make the region proud. That is what it takes. It takes collaboration and partnership so that we can get the funds necessary to develop what we need.
Thank you very much, Dr. Webster. Mrs. Webster, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add further information on the topic.
Indeed, and the Honorable Probert said something that I believe is very significant. You know, a national sports plan that spills over to District 1. What respect is that for our young athletes? We can't do it by happenstance. We have to create policies for development. That is what leaders do. Leaders don't just stand by the way. They create plans. They harness and marshal resources so that they can deploy those resources to the purposes that our people agree are important for them. That is what, there are three things a leader does. It's focused on governance, it's focused on marshaling those resources to get what the people want and what the needs are of the community. And the third thing is tying the vision with, what actually happens. On those three pillars, what do you see? The basic planning hasn't applied. We haven't even taken responsibility for that. No spilling over in District 1. We want leadership that delivers so that our young athletes can really make a mark in the world and make us proud, make us someone in District 1.
Thank you. Mrs. Webster, you'll start with this question.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing. Sorry.
You'll start with this next question.
Okay, you have one for me. Thank you.
District 1 has the potential to be a second town in Anguilla. What strategies can be implemented to support local businesses and job creation within District 1? SDGs 8, 9, and 11. I'll repeat the question. District 1 has the potential to be a second town in Anguilla. What strategies can be implemented to support local businesses and creation and job creation within District 1. You have 1 minute to think of your answer and then respond.
And you start by saying, I'll maybe take the 1 minute at the end, that would be good, thanks. You start by saying that, that we were, the potential to be a second town. And while, the idea of being a town merits, some it's a vision. I don't like District 1 being second to anywhere. I want to see development across Anguilla that looks good, with District 1 leading that development. When I talk about, a city development in District 1, it's not compared to the valley. It's taken the unique, special energies of District 1, the coast, the people, our children, the way we live, our cultural heritage, our ancestral values. Did you see when I put down that recognition of our national heroes? When we did the outline of the Rambler, I know the British came with something afterwards, but that was a way of saying we are the best in District 1. We have the most potential to distinguish Anguilla on the world. Why? Our heritage is rich. We have so many different influences, so much diversity that integrates. And yes, we have our challenges, and we may have problems achieving that, because it's this environment where we lack the resources. There is unemployment, there is crime, there is violence. That was unheard of in District 1. And when we started the community center, a collaborative effort with the community, so many years ago now in 2010, and that persisted until the center was shut down by the Honorable Premier. We were addressing training and education and marrying those resources and planning to deliver not just a second town, but a major focus for Anguillian development. District 1 leading.
Dr. Ellis Webster, your response.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Webster has been spewing lies all day today. I heard her on the radio. She said that the center was painted blue and shut down by me. But we can ask Mr. Cedric Boyston Webster why the center was shut down. In terms of Island Harbor District 1 being a second town in Anguilla, we do know that the Valley is the main town right now for administrative purposes. But I do believe that Island Harbor, as part of District 1, is a town in itself and certainly can be further developed. We are the home of the Anguilla Revolution. So we have the heritage, we have the legacy. And I think that the boardwalk will be the crowning event that will bring Island Harbor and District 1 to be that second town. And I want to thank Uncle Kenneth, we call him Harry, for that vision. And then those who have followed on to make this a reality. And we know that in the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with the Savannah Bay Development, we insisted that they have to provide a social program, and they chose that their obligation would be to put $2 million into building the boardwalk. You saw the rendering, the concept rendering that was shown on Thursday, the 6th of February. I'm sure most of you thought that this is something that you can get behind. And let's make Uncle Harry's legacy stand for the 20-plus years that he has been in government. We get the boardwalk for Island Harbor and for District 1. But Island Harbor is a seafaring village, and we can develop so much there. Boat building with Glenn Richardson up there in Garland Bottom, doing such a great job with building boats that he's now equipping the fishermen that they can get out there. Sports, the sport fishers, he's getting them out where they need to go. We can do boat racing, more festivals like Festival Del Mar, music festivals. We can do something like Montserrat where they have St. Patrick's Day. We have the Irish heritage in Island Harbor and in District 1 that we can develop that as a festival. On the pond itself, those 2 buildings that we are going to convert into community center, maritime museum, arts and crafts center, that will provide jobs, that will provide art so that persons can sell, and that's how they can develop small businesses and also restaurants, bars on the beach. We can develop that. And also, I think in terms of other businesses that can be developed, we have the ability to transform District 1 all the way from Welch's to the pond ground and the cops. We can develop small mom and pop businesses that can, make us, again, happy to be part of District 1, as I said, the home of the revolution, the home of innovation, the home of creativity.
Mrs. Pam Webster, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add additional information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. What I can say, and it's amazing to me that the Honorable Premier will make statements that public records will show that he is not telling the truth. I have taken motions to the House. I have established such a record. I invite any of you to establish that. And one thing he's not clear about, because I worked so hard as the member for District 1, he thinks I was in government. I was the leader of opposition. And you know what opposition does. I was not in government, but he's confused because I did so much, and so much more than he has done in opposition. While I was in opposition, that's incredible to me. What I would say to you is that if you go, just like checking the public records, if you go on the internet, and it's still there, my 2010 plan, District 1 leaded when I first ventured out, and I lost. Every single idea he's just put forward was documented there. Every single one, there's nothing new. And the old building that was going to be the Maritime Museum that he described? Look at its state. Look at that building. And think about what his plan for that was. It's rather like the free clinics. It was an illusion, a delusion, and nothing has happened. I'm so disappointed to have to say to the Honorable Premier, he really needs to do his groundwork. He can't just make such reckless statements, not testing them. It's irresponsible as a leader. Thank you.
Dr. Ellis.
Yes, I get to rebut.
Okay. My apologies. Dr. Ellis Webster,
yes.
You can rebut or add additional information.
I would like to say that the former representative for District 1 has had 5 minutes so far, and in those 5 minutes, she has not stated one motion by name or one bill that she would have brought to the House. In fact, it was the Honorable former Chief Minister Hubert Hughes who said that he met with her while she was leader of the opposition and told her how she could bring a motion to the House because she would never get a seconder. So bring the motion, discuss the motion, and then ask for a second. She never did. And if she can name one motion that she brought to the House in this auditorium today at the Morris Vanderpool Primary School, then I will retract everything I've said about her. But she can't. And so that's the thing. The other thing about, District 1, we don't need to be fighting against each other. We should be coming together to move the district forward. But I sat in a PTA meeting 2.5 years ago, and Mrs. Webster was present, and the other persons in the audience who were present at that meeting. And Mrs. Webster said, if you as the Premier and Minister of Finance and Minister of Health, in her usual South African accent, said, if you were to get this Island Harbor School, Vivian Vanderpool School done, get us a new school, then I will say that you have done a good job and you stood up for the people of Island Harbor and District 1. There are persons in the audience who are present who can bear me out on this. Now she is sitting here opposing me because I am doing for the district what needs to be done. We have the plans set to build up District 1. Certainly it took a while to get there because when we came in, Anguilla, $494 million in debt, $97.1 million deficit, $23 million that needed in bills that needed to be paid. There was no way that we could do the things we wanted to do. But you see the plans, you've heard them laid out, and that is what it takes. It takes all of us working together as members of District 1 to move District 1 forward. If we keep fighting against each other, and if we keep telling each other, I support what you do, but then you go behind our back and cut us down, how will we get anything done?
Thank you very much, Dr. Webster. Now, a lighter question to lighten the mood. District 1, being a coastal community, is at a high risk to the adverse effects of climate change, such as rising sea levels and more frequent and intense storms. What practical strategies can be done to ensure resilience against these threats? SDGs 11, 13, 14, 15, and 17. One more time. District 1, being a coastal community, is at a high risk to the adverse effects of climate change, such as rising sea levels and more frequent and intense storms. What practical strategies can be done to ensure resilience against these threats? SDGs 11, 13, 14, 15, and 17. We will begin with a response from the Honorable Premier. You have 1 minute to prepare, or you can start whenever you wish.
Thank you very much. I know they've been sitting for a while and they want to get home, so I won't take that minute. But I love the question because we know that climate change poses an existential threat to Anguilla specifically because tourism is our main industry. And we sell sun, sea, sand, and our people, the most hospitable people in the world. What we have to do is be able to mitigate against what is happening with coastal erosion, beach erosion, earlier sargassum. We have to be able to find ways that we can protect our coastlines, our beaches, so that we can continue to be the paradise that we are. The practical strategies are we have to build better. We have to make sure that our buildings can stand up to these vicious hurricanes, to storm surges. We have to protect our coral reefs because they do help. And because if we lose the coral reef, we lose the fishing, we lose the ability to sustain ourselves, and we lose also that wave action that can protect our coastlines. We have to stop sand mining, and that is an issue that is significant in District Number 1. We have to be able to stop removing the sand from the beaches and building these big craters up there so that if we get a tsunami, it will wipe out the whole of Anguilla. We are trying to replace the sand dunes right now by taking the sargassum and heaping it up, letting it dry out, building back the sand. This would not be necessary if the persons that do sand mining would leave the sand alone. And the police have to get more involved. And we, the people, we have to report. When we go to the beaches and we go to the coasts and we see what's happening, we have to be able to report what's happening. Other ways that we can do this is, we may have to do breakwaters. And sometimes it's necessary to do breakwaters to stop the wave action, to cut down on the surges that come in and that destroy our coastlines. And so these are all measures that we have to do to mitigate against the climate change, because it is there. It's not coming, it's there. The rising temperatures, the rising sea levels, and this is important to us. The storms are getting stronger, and they're coming more frequently. So we have to be able to do this. Now, we do not have the carbon footprint that we can say change the carbon footprint and burn less fuel, and that will make that significant a difference. But we have to make sure that we do our part. We have to plant trees back and stop uprooting our mangroves. And these are programs that the Anguilla National Trust has been doing, that the youth groups have been doing, to make sure that we can keep the coastal areas protected, preserved, because if we don't do that, we're going to lose this country that we live in. Thank you.
Mrs. Webster.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, it was very interesting to me listening to the Honorable Premier that he talked about those issues. And you know, we need to do this and we need to do that. But he hasn't identified a single thing, save putting the sargassum on the beach to allow it to dry, that would stop it. Sand mining has created so many challenges in our area, major challenges. We see it during the hurricanes, but even the way, the development on Island Harbor, the Island Harbor Bay in that area, how that is, it's really worrying. We have to literally think about how we're going to restore our areas, how we're going to restore beaches, how we're going to restore that property. And Sargassum by itself, it's not enough. Indeed, I think there's better application of the Sargassum for other purposes. I would love to see our young entrepreneurs, like that really smart guy in Grenada who's been creating incredible wealth out of the sargassum. We could do stuff like that. So how will we ensure that Anguilla is more climate resilient? Because our Honorable Premier hasn't said how he's going to do it, or how his administration is going to do it. We need stronger environmental protections. You can't say sand mining goes on all the time, it's a matter for the police. That's incredible. You're getting rid of the one resource that will save the majority of our people just because you don't have the strength or whatever it takes to stop the breaking of the law. These are the issues we're dealing with. So we need investments in renewable energy as well, like solar and wind power. How is it, after all the talk, we don't have solar energy and better disaster preparedness? Irma taught us a lot. What I will do is I will push for policies, written policies, that protect our coastlines, marine life, and ensure sustainable development for all our future generations. That's what I will do as the representative for District 1.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Webster. Just as an aside, we'll take a few questions, maybe one or two from the audience. If you have a question, you can give it to Nestor. Nestor, could you raise your hand? You can give your question to Nestor. He's at the back, and we will take them after this final question. Dr. Webster, you have 2 minutes to rebut or add further information.
Thank you, moderator. You know, policies alone will not do much, because there are lots of policies. There are lots of draft legislation out there, but there are practical things that have to be done, because we have to save Anguilla, we have to save District 1. And I did suggest things. We have to make sure that our buildings are resilient. We have to protect our coral. We have to make sure that, if necessary, put in breakwaters. We have to stop the sand mining, because if we lose the beaches from human action, then the climate action will just make it worse. These are the practical things that need to be done. We teach education. We educate our persons. You know, there are certain planning and environmental bills that have been suggested. But when they come up, we protest against them because we don't understand the long-term effects of following those rules as they're stated. And so these are all things that we as a people have to decide what it is that we want and how we want to protect this land of ours. And this land is worth protecting. And that's what we have been doing as the Anguilla Progressive Movement, making sure that we put the laws and the policies in place, but also taking practical steps and working with organizations such as CFAS and also the Resembit programs, and working with the Darwin Plus programs to make sure that those who have the knowledge and the technical expertise work with us to help us to save the country. This is what we have to do, and what we will continue to do as the Anguilla Progressive Movement, and as your representative from District 1 will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Webster?
Yes. Yes.
You have 2 minutes to...
No.
She went already?
She would have, okay. Yeah, she can go ahead. Yeah, she can go ahead, yeah. She's number
Yes,
4.
you have 2 minutes to rebut add further information. Are you in already? I can't.
No, she can go.
I believe, Mr. Moderator, you've been so intrigued by my response before because, Mr. Moderator, that is what it means when you say, I said earlier, that leadership is about policy development, it's about governance and how you marshal resources to do it. And our Honorable Premier just disputed what are the 3 pillars of leadership. And now I understand why there is such a gap in governance in Anguilla. And it's most noticeable in relation to that example of sand mining that we gave earlier. That's what I would say, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Webster.
Okay. I guess we should do sand mining then.
Dr. Webster, you might have to mute your mic.
Oh.
No.
We were promised by Mr. Moderator that we'd take the minute and that last question to lighten up, and I can see the smile, so it's happening, Mr. Moderator.
I'm just thinking of a way to reformat the structure of the question. In Island Harbor, there's a series of restaurants and beach bars on the coast. What are some practical ways of developing the structures and the economic development of these entities? I'll read that question over again. There's a series of restaurants on the beach in Island Harbor. What are some practical ways of developing those entities now to basically promote economic development? Pam, if you want, you can have a minute to prepare.
Okay.
But you have 2 minutes to respond.
So we have restaurants, yes. Please repeat the question so all of us can hear it.
No problem. There's a series of restaurants. Let me pause for a second. Audience, please, 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 please. There's a series of restaurants on the beach, most of them with a shack-like structure.
Okay.
What are some practical ways of developing these entities?
Thank you very much. Yes, on Island Harbor Beach, we have some entities that are, wooden structures. And those entities, we might describe them as shack-like, but they're certainly very charming. And if you see that Cap Juluka has Cap Shack and where else have emulated that kind of architecture in a way that recognizes the value of that to the country. We have, to the charm of Anguilla, we have other tourism development. Hibernia is well recognized as one of the leading restaurants, one of the best restaurants, Michelin rated without a Michelin rated. And it's talked about all the way in the world. That has been a restaurant that was set up a little bit away from the beach. So we have the opportunity, I believe, in District 1 to have different kinds of architecture depending on what the objective is. And certainly the risks posed by climate change and all of that will always be something that we have to work with. But I know that the little houses and the little shacks, and some of them wooden, survived many of the hurricanes in the past. And we've, of course, had the situation where Smitty's, many, many years ago, a leading tourism outlet in Island Harbor as well, was swept away. So I think that we've got to really look carefully at the development plan, and with the opportunity with the boardwalk and bringing the cottage industries, we can move them away from the beachside and really enjoy an incredible coast, uninterrupted, and at the same time secure the safety of our buildings. I think we can do that with good planning.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Webster. Dr. Webster, you have 2 minutes to share your response.
Yes, certainly. I agree that the type of structures that are on the beach itself, there's a certain character that they have. They give a certain sense of being part of the community, where we go from, the simple way. And I think it would be hard to get rid of that. I mean, I've been to Oystons in Barbados, and I've been to Grand Cars and seeing what they have. They have more resilient structures, but they lose the character. They lose what is endemic to us as Island Harbor people, And so we can build them when they go away. We can build them back better, of course. But I think that you have to keep that simplistic nature about them that people come to Island Harbor to get, where they can sit on the beach on a Sunday afternoon and just relax. And the buildings is not that need to be stuffy. They can come there in their shorts and T-shirt. If you build structures that are more formal, you're going to have to then dress up and things like that. I don't think Island Harbor wants that. You want that ability to become part of the people. And we are, in Island Harbor, we are intelligent, but we live a simple life. We don't have any flares about us. That is what is endemic to Island Harbor and to District 1 in general. Some of us didn't have a pair of shoes until we were almost teenagers. Some of us walked around with holes in our pants and no shirt. But we are proud people. And we stand up for each other, and we stand up for Anguilla, because in the time when it was necessary to save Anguilla from St. Kitts and from the British, it was the people from Island Harbor that came out and did it. So that is what it takes. It takes us to have that character that is endemic to Island Harbor and to District 1. We have to keep that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Webster. Mrs. Webster, you have 1 minute to rebut or add further information.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And you know what's missing from what the Honorable Premier? He didn't talk about a plan. We need a vision for what island. We start with the vision, a shared vision. And yes, we're going to have different styles, but it's going to be ecotourism, it's going to be cultural heritage, it's going to be sports tourism, and it's going to be booming entrepreneurs. And most importantly, we have to talk to the people one by one, all of those entrepreneurs that tried it, all our fishermen. What is it you want? How do you see it? We have to deliver and deliver our thoughts. All of us, we have to listen, And we have to share that vision of the District 1 leading. And all of those opportunities will be fully integrated in a harmonized way that supports the advancement of every single person in District 1.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Webster. Dr. Webster, you have 1 minute to rebut or add further information.
Well, you know, Mrs. Webster hasn't said anything that I haven't presented in different fora and even here tonight. So I thank her for endorsing our vision and our plan.
Thank you very much. We'll now have closing remarks by firstly Dr. Webster and then by Mrs. Webster. You have 3 minutes, Dr. Webster. I'll give you a chance to get your notes together.
Yes, I'm ready. I want to thank you very much, moderator. I want to thank the Anguilla National Youth Council. I want to thank the organizers of these debates. But I was very disappointed when the leader of the opposition made her closing statement earlier this evening, because it was just, we have a short window to the elections. We are taking, because we feel it's important for the young people to hear our views, see our vision and our plans, we decided that we'd participate in the debates. I had no hesitation to do that. However, I will not be part of any ploy or plan that the leader of the opposition and her team is putting forward. They know that none of their candidates can stand up to any of the candidates of the Anguilla Progressive Movement. And so to protect her candidates, she made this statement here this evening that she'll pull her candidates from the debates. We are here because we want the young people to know that we have their interests at heart, that we are protecting their futures. And I am willing to stand up against anybody and defend our vision, our position, and to show the plans that we have for this country of ours that we love. But I will not be part of any plan or ploy that the leader of the opposition and her cronies have put together. We will not debate her, because if my new candidate, Lennox Vanterpool, stood up here and beat her 9 rounds out of 10, there's no way that she can stand up to me. And we have proved that in the House of Assembly, and we will not do that. I am here. I'm debating the candidates running for the seat in District 1, and then we will move on to the campaign trail, the public rallies like we've been doing, to make sure that we can get the word out to the people, defend our record. I am so proud of our record, and I will defend it to the hilt. I know we haven't gotten everything done that we wanted to get done, but I can assure you, District 1, I thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to be here, and I will defend District 1. I will defend the people of District 1 and continue to put in place measures to make sure that you are financially stable, to make sure that you can grow, to make sure that we can bring down the cost of living. We will get to renewable energy. It has been stymied by those who have stopped us from getting that in place, but we know that it is necessary. We will bring in price control. This is all necessary also, because it is necessary to make sure that you, the people, can benefit from this country that you have fought so hard to make it what it is. And so again, we have been able to bring in subsidies. We have been able to incentivize. We have been able to make sure that you have electricity credits to help. We had the Anglic board, we asked them, and they decreased the fuel surcharge. These are things to help the people, and those have helped persons in District 1. We do have plans, though, as we have outlined on February 6th, to improve the district, and we'll continue to do that if you give us the opportunity to continue to represent you in the House of Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Webster. We'll now have the closing remarks from Mrs. Palmer Von Webster.
My brothers and sisters of District 1, tonight you've heard the facts. You have heard the promises, the excuses, and the justifications from those who've had 5 years to prove themselves and have failed. Let me be clear, this election...
One second,
Yes.
Mrs. Webster.
Yes.
Guys, it's very disrespectful. It is extremely disrespectful that she's giving her closing remarks and you're interrupting. It's very disrespectful. We are all adults here. The young children are being respectful and the adults are not being respectful. It's not nice.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for that. And before my time starts to run again, I want to say, Mr. Moderator, I want to big up the National Youth Council. You are modeling the behaviors our leaders should be modeling in this society. And thank you for that. Because you know, Mr. Moderator, this is not about one political party and another political party. It's about our people, and very importantly, it's about our youth. And we have really difficult challenges today to do with youth development, and we've got to address them, and it starts with leadership. So let me be clear, Mr. Moderator, this election is not about personalities, political parties, or empty words. It is about real leadership versus broken promises. GST, you remember that? The pain in our stomach. It's about a representative who listens and acts versus one who only appears when votes are needed. District 1 deserves better. You, all of you, including those making the noise, you deserve better leadership. You deserve a representative who will lower the cost of living and repeal or reform GST in big ways. We need to bring real job opportunities and support local businesses in District 1. We need to invest in education in a big way and in youth development so our children have a future in Anguilla. We have to demand transparency in government and stop backroom deals that leave Anguillians behind. Do we know, has the Honorable Premier told us what revenues we've received from .ai? Ask him. That transparency looks like that. He will have a chance. Now I stand before you again because I refuse to let District 1 be an afterthought. No spilling over this time. This election is about more than just voting. It is about reclaiming our identity, your dignity, your respect, your future. And for too long, politicians have come to District 1 asking for votes while giving nothing meaningful in return. They make promises they don't intend to keep. Do not let politicians treat you as a commodity to be bought and sold. Tonight, I ask you to vote for conscience, and do not let fear, favors, or last-minute gimmicks decide your future. Vote for someone who's been there before and will be there again. Vote for Pam Webster. Vote for real leadership. Vote for effective representation for District 1. Together, we will make District 1 forward. We will take it forward in a positive direction with a relationship built on respect, on trust, on understanding, where everyone matters and everyone has a voice in decisions that impact their lives. That is what true representation is about, serving you, the people. And I'm here to serve once again. Thank you. Thank the National Youth Council again. Thank the youth. And may God bless you all, and may God bless Anguilla always.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Webster. I'd just like to point out it's the Anguilla National Youth Council, National Youth Ambassador Corps, as well as the Anguilla Youth Parliament.
And we recognize the Ambassador Corps as well. Excellent work that you've done, not just now, but for many, many years. Well done.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank Dr. Ellis Surams Webster and Mrs. Webster for a wonderful discussion. We will continue our debates at the Campus Q tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.